If you're a weirdo like me and you like to keep fish in glass boxes, you know how important a hospital tank is. But what if you don't have room for one? That's coming up on this episode of Tank Talk. Welcome to another episode of Tank Talk. My name is John Hudson with KGTropicals.com, and this is a series all about answering your questions and comments submitted either in the comments section of this video or through any of my other forms of social media. I will have all of them listed at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. But for now, let's get into the first question. Okay, so today's first question comes from Korhan Karatag, I think is his name. Reads like this. My man, are you from Brooklyn? I think I saw you at a Petco the other day. No, I'm not from Brooklyn. I'm from King George, Virginia. I do have a funny story kind of similar to that, though. I was in a store, one of my favorite stores, a fish store in Baltimore, Maryland called House of Tropicals. If you're ever in that area, check it out. It's a wonderful place. They've got like 500 tanks. It's amazing. So I'm in there. I'm just killing time walking around. And as I'm looking through the fish going from aisle to aisle, I noticed these two giant dudes. They must have played for the Ravens or something. I don't know. These were big dudes, and they were kind of following me around the store. And I was like, I don't know about all that. So I kept on walking through, and I saw them a couple of times in the store. And then finally I was leaving, and I was looking at my phone, and I'm walking out to the car, and I'm just about to get in the car, and I noticed they had followed me out of the store, and one of them says, "Hey!" I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, "You're John, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, we love your videos." I told him it was you. He didn't think it was you. And they turn around and they walk right back in the store. That could have gone so many different ways, but that was really cool to be recognized like that. It doesn't happen all that often. It's happened a couple of times, but it's very rare. So it was kind of neat. If you happen to be watching this video, the two guys that were there at House of Tropicals, I hope I didn't look too scared. Okay, so today's real question comes from New Fish Girl 712, and she says, "Hi John, if I can't have a hospital tank due to space, what is the other best option?" All right, so the first thing I'm going to say is who doesn't have room for this? This is a 10-gallon tank, folks. It measures 20 by 10 by 12, and it only weighs 84 pounds when it's full of water. You could literally stick a tank like this on top of your dresser and only have it out when it's needed. So these things don't need to be huge tanks. Hospital tanks can be small, like a 10-gallon, or if you're keeping smaller fish, even a 5-gallon will do. So here's the thing. I understand that a lot of people are limited in space. Maybe you're a young person still living with mom and dad and you're staying in a bedroom, and that's where you have to keep your tanks. I understand that for some people space might be limited, and so you can't have a tank like I just showed you out all the time. Here is an idea. Next time there is one of those $1-a-gallon sales at your big box pet store, go and buy a 10-gallon tank and stick it in the closet somewhere, but also purchase one of these, a sponge filter. But what I want you to do is I want you to take this sponge filter and throw it into your main tank, the tank that you're using all the time. Run that sponge filter in the tank, meaning put air to it so that water is circulating through that sponge at all times. This is going to keep a nice cycled filter ready for you anytime you might need it. Then, if anything ever happens and you're in a pinch and you need a tank right away, go to the closet, grab that 10-gallon tank, put it on top of your dresser, fill it up with water, take that sponge filter out of your main tank, which has been accumulating all that beautiful beneficial bacteria, take it out, put it in your hospital tank, and there you go. You have a cycled filter in a hospital tank, perfect for your sick or your injured fish to go in. This is a really nice way of doing it because you have the ability to hospitalize a fish if need be without occupying all of that much space in your room. You're really only going to put it out when you need it. So I would highly recommend that you do this. But for some people, even that won't work. Let's talk about some other ideas. So for whatever reason, you haven't been able to go out and get this extra tank yet, or you haven't found the sale yet, whatever it is, but it's 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday, your fish is hurt, and it absolutely has to go somewhere. What do I do if I don't have an extra tank? Well, there's a couple of things sitting around your house right now that you can use, but I do want to caution you on a couple of things before you fill it up with water and throw your fish in there. The first might sound like common sense, but it's a 5-gallon bucket. You can take a 5-gallon bucket, put some water in there, put an air stone in there, and your fish should be fine overnight. But I want to warn you, don't run out to the garage and grab the first 5-gallon bucket that you see. If you're still living with mom and dad, don't just run out there and grab the 5-gallon bucket that your dad's been using to wash the cars on Sunday afternoon. You need to ask, make sure it's a clean bucket that's never been used with any kind of chemicals or anything like that. You don't want the situation to be worse for your fish in that bucket than it was in the tank. The next is one of those Rubbermaid storage totes. Now, these are everywhere. You've probably got them in your attic in your house right now or sitting around all over the place like I do. Grab one of these, put some water in it, an air stone, and your fish will be fine in there overnight. You can even use things like big spaghetti pots or the pots that you fry your turkeys in at Thanksgiving. Anything that can hold water should be okay to store your fish in overnight until you can go out to the store the next day and grab one of these tanks. Now, again, I've got a 12-inch Oscar down here that's not going to fit in a spaghetti pot. Probably wouldn't even fit comfortably in a 5-gallon bucket, but one of those Rubbermaid totes would work perfectly fine for him. And again, we're talking about emergency situations here where you've just got to get them in something. You got to do what you got to do. But like I said earlier, it's always good to have something like this sitting around. You never know when you might need it. I've seen a couple of YouTubers have sponge filters that they keep in their tanks, and they keep them hidden behind other things, and they're keeping them that way for this purpose. They're there in reserve just in case they ever need to fill up something in an emergency and put the fish in there. You already have a nice cycled filter, but there's something that I want to warn you about when it comes to using sponge filters like that. Anything that you're going to be using to go back and forth between your hospital tank and your main tank. For God's sakes, folks, if you're treating a fish that has a horrible contagious disease, you want to make good and sure that that sponge filter is cleaned out before you put it back into your tank to keep it cycled. Even if it means bleaching the thing, letting it dry out in the sun, and washing it over and over and over again before you put it back in here with these guys, you absolutely want to make sure you're not putting anything in there that's going to end up killing all of your fish. And there you have it. I hope that this video has helped you to understand a couple of little things that you can do if you're in a pinch and you need somewhere to put your fish. Again, the best case scenario is to have something available and ready just in case you ever need it. It's already cycled, it's running, it's there. But if you can't do that, I hope this video has helped you to figure out what you could do in case of an emergency. So hope you liked the video. If you did, why don't you be a pal and click that like button down there for me. Don't forget, all of my social media is listed right here. If you want to get your question in now, you can put it in literally anywhere. I will see it. I can't answer every single question, but I'll pick the good ones and we'll roll with that. So thank you so much for watching this, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.